Welcome to Worksheet 12. We're finally entering the world, the beautiful world, of third declension nouns. So typically when you study Latin, you have this sort of like baby period, this incubation period where your whole world is first and second declension nouns, and you get really comfortable with them and you practice their endings and you start to feel great. And then at some point, some Latin teacher comes up to you and bam! They smack you upside the head with third declension. And it feels so different. But a declension is a declension. It's just different endings. Third declension is the largest declension. It has the most nouns. It has the best nouns. It has all the nouns that they borrowed from other languages. It has most of the gods and goddesses. It's got all the good stuff. So we must embrace the third declension. Okay? The one thing that is admittedly tricky about the third declension is that the nominative and the genitive will often look different from one another. Not necessarily radically different, but there's typically a shift from the nominative to the genitive, what we call the stem. Whereas first declension and second declension are pretty stable. It's pretty predictable, right? You're going to have your I for first declension. You're going to have your e or e for second declension. E for your second declension neuters. It's kind of predictable. Third declension could be anything, right? The nominative, we never put something in that box. It's just whatever the nominative is. So there's no pattern of endings for the nominative. There are third declension nouns that end in x. There are third declension nouns that end in ns. There are third declension nouns that end in tas, that end in tus, that end in us, that end in all kinds of different things. So it's just whatever the nominative is. The genitive will always end in is. That's what makes it third declension. So once you get to the genitive, it has to have that is if it's going to be third declension. And then the pattern goes is, ace, ibus, ace, ibus. So a couple of similarities, right? For instance, the accusative, first declension we had second declension we had now we have m. Ablative singular we had a. Hey Jaden. Ablative singular we had a, we had o, and now we have e. Genitive plural we had aurum, aurum, now we just have Accusative plural we had os, we had as, we have ace. Dative and ablative plural, we had is, and now we have ibus. Okay. Don't forget too about neuters, right? A couple things that are different about neuters. Neuter plurals always end in a, right? So you're going to fill in the nominative and accusative plural endings with the a, and nominative and accusative are always the same. So when you see this chart here, this line means whatever the nominative is, the accusative will be exactly the same. So third declension nouns, all genders are represented, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Okay? Always, always, always go to the genitive to get the stem. So what I recommend you do here is just decline the noun. Just get the noun correct, and then worry about the adjective later. So for our first pair here, we have the skilled soldier. So we have miles, militis. So my noun is miles, militis. When I go to decline this noun, make sure you don't lose that stem. That stem is milit. That's why we call it the military. So miles, militis, militi, militem, milite. If you still need to look at these endings, that's okay. It's our first time doing it, but eventually you want to get to the point where you don't have to look at them. Milites, militum, militibus, milites, and militibus. So again, can't stress this enough. Don't lose the stem. 9 times out of 10, first time at doing this, you lose a syllable along the way, and then all of a sudden you got milli and millem and mille. Ugh. Right? This adjective is just like the adjectives that we had before. So you have a masculine form, you have a feminine form, you have a neuter form. Since soldier is masculine, we're going to use peritus. Now remember what we said about nouns and adjectives. They don't have to have the same endings. Peritos is second declension. These types of adjectives, remember we call them first and second declension, that hasn't changed. So peritos, periti, perito, peritum, and perito. Us, I, o, o. Remember we talked about taco grande and how we were okay with that? Here's the taco grande. Periti, peritorum, peritis, peritos, peritis. So my noun is third declension, and my adjective is second declension, and they live in perfect harmony, and that is okay. So when you're doing these noun-adjective pairs, particularly when you're crossing declensions, right? If it's a lot for your brain to process, just do the noun first. Do the noun its way, and then worry about the adjective second. Okay? Moving on to sacred light, we have lux lucus. So my noun is lux lucus. Third declension because of the is. So luci, lucem, luca, luces, lucum, lucibus, luces, and lucibus. Third declension noun, it's going to use third declension endings. Life is good. Next thing you have to ask yourself is which form of the adjective, sacer, sacra, sacrum, which one am I going to use? Excellent answer, everyone. We're going to use the feminine form, which is sacra. Why are we using the feminine form? Because the noun is feminine. So we're going to use sacra. Sacra is first declension because it's first declension. That's how these adjectives work. Sacra, sacri, sacri, sacram, sacra, sacri, sacrarum, sacris, sacras, sacris. So the noun is third declension, the adjective is first declension. They live in perfect harmony. Life is good. So for number 3 here, we have our first, I'm just going to bump this down a little bit. We have our first neuter noun. So the nominative and the genitive, genus, generis, you can always fill those in, easy money. The stem is gener. So when we go to decline this word, we're going to have generi. But be careful, because the nominative and the accusative for neuter nouns are the same. That's a rule about neuter nouns, that whatever the nominative is, the accusative is exactly the same. The other forms, we have to use the stem. Genere, right? The plural for a neuter noun would be genera. Generum, generibus, genera, and generibus. So going back to that stem, making sure that we use the stem. Boom! Well done, Jaden. Well done. Fantastic. Just watch the spelling on your genera. But yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Because this word is neuter, we're going to use primum as my adjective, right? Because that's the neuter one. All good. Primum is second declension, second neuter. So primum, primi, primo, primum. Hey, primo. Amy's here. Prima, because it's neuter. Primorum, primis, prima, primis. Any questions so far? Just the idea of having these nouns and these adjectives in different declensions, that being okay. We can live with that. Jaden's good. If Jaden's good, I'm good. Now we're just rinsing and repeating. Alexa's good. Fantastic. Sorry about my throat clearing. It's been a long evening, morning, day. Excellent question, Tegan. If it is neuter, absolutely. So the adjective forms here, the way that they work, masculine use second declension, feminine use first declension, and neuter use second neuter. That's absolutely right. That's why you get primum over here, prima over here. Which makes sense, because this is genera, so you can imagine they would agree with each other. It also does create these situations which, for instance, you have primum genus. That's fine. That genus is not a masculine genus. All us's are not masculine. Is second the most important or third? In terms of declensions, third. Absolutely, without a doubt, third declension. Third declension's the moneymaker. The best voice. So we have our noun, walks, wolkis, wolki, wolkem, wolka, wolkes, wokum, sometimes wokium, but we're not going to go there today. Wokibus, wokes, and wokibus. So this is a great example of the stem being very different, right? The nominative is wox, V-O-X, but the stem is wok, V-O-C. So you always want to be paying attention with third declension nouns. You have to look at the nominative and the genitive. Voice is feminine, so we have optimus, optima, optimum. We're going to use optima. And optima is first declension because the feminine adjective is first declension. Optima, optimi, optimi, optimum, optima. Optimi, optimarum, optimis, optimas, optimis. Hopefully we're good. If not, you guys always ask questions, right? Always good. Just remember, noun first, then deal with the adjective second. The long journey, so we have this noun, which is often misspelled. The noun is iter in the nominative, itineris in the genitive. So be careful, because that's a big old stem change from iter to itineris. Itinerary, but it is a neuter noun. Yeah, it's a tough one. The neuter rule, right? The rule about neuters, the nominative is iter, which means the accusative is iter as well. Then we go back to the stem, itinere. Oops. The plural, because it's neuter, itinera, itinerum, itineribus, itinera. I feel like I'm spelling it wrong. Itineribus. Itinerary in English, which is a hard word to spell. But if you know how to spell itinerary, it makes this word a little bit easier. And it is a neuter noun, so longus, longa, longum. Longum is going to be second declension and neuter, so longum, longi, longo, longum, longo. And in the plural, longa, longorum, longis, longa, and longis. An excellent Alexa, right? Second declension, but don't forget about the neuter forms as well. So a long journey is a longum iter. Plural, longa itinera. The Great King. So king, one of those really common third declension nouns. Rex, regis, regi, regem, rege. Plural, reges, regum, regibus, reges, regibus. And since rex is masculine, we're going to use magnus, which is second declension. Magnus, magni, magno, magnum, magno. Us, e, o, o. And then for the plurals, we have magni, magnorum, magnis, magnos, magnis. And it did not autocorrect me to mango, which it normally does. So that's good. Magnus, magni, magno, 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 magni, magnorum, magnis, magnos, magnis. So you start to see the combinations that the Romans would often see, right? Is and ibus. It's a common combination. Os and ace, right? O and e, and m. Those are common, combinations that you would see with nouns and adjectives. The good state. So the nominative for this word is civitas, and the genitive is civitatis. I love it. That's how we learn things, Tegan. Burn them into the muscles of our hands. Civitas, civitatis, civitati. Right, so we got to keep that stem. Civitat, civitatem, civitate. In which direction, Jaden? Yeah, it's close. I don't think they're done counting, though. Yeah, that number hasn't changed in a while. So I think they're still going. All right, back to the action. Civitates, civitatum, civitatibus, civitates, civitatibus. Yeah, it's getting really close. I mean, the thing is, it's all the mail-in votes. And if you imagine a mail-in vote, an in-person vote, when you guys get to vote, you just feed your ballot into the machine, and you're done. You actually do it. Every mail-in vote is an envelope inside of another envelope that you have to take out. You have to scan it so that you know that the person voted. Somebody has to check it, and it's a whole big process. So mail-in votes take a lot longer to count. And this year there were 100 million of them. 100 million mail-in votes. It's crazy. Yeah, taking them out. And that's why the states that aren't done yet, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, those 3 states have laws that say you can't touch the mail-in ballots until the morning of the election. All the other states that counted really quickly, like Florida, for instance, those ballots had already been processed. They were opened, they were in big old stacks, and that way the day of the election, it was just like an in-person vote. You just feed it into the machine. So that's where all the quirky laws for each state come into effect. We're going to use the feminine adjective here because Civitas is feminine, so it is a bona Civitas. Bona is first declension, so bona, bonai, bonai, bonam, bona. Oh, Florida. My sweet, sweet former home state. Bonas. Right, first declension. Bona, bonai, bonai, bonam, bona. Bonai, bonatum, bonis, bonas, bonis. Yeah, Florida is one of those states that's kind of moving. It's moving away from the Democrats, I think. I think it's going to be red for a while. Just changing populations. It's all good. And Our Time, which I think is the name of that old people dating site. Now that I think about it, I think it's called Our Time. It's like, you know, hey, old people need to find people too. It's their time. All right, so the noun is tempus. The genitive is temporis. Alexa, I'm assuming the bruh is for my comment about old people dating. This is a fun video. People are going to be watching this like, what is happening right now? Just get to the forms. Tempus temporis is neuter, so tempori. But because it's neuter, the accusative is also tempus. So be careful. Then it's back to the stem. Tempora. Tempora. Temporum. Temporibus. Tempora. Temporibus. That's why the stem being tempor, the English word being temporary or temporal. Since it's neuter, noster, nostra, nostrum, we're going to use nostrum. Nostrum, nostri, nostro, nostrum, and nostro. I, o, o. As long as I keep these videos under a half hour, I'm okay with that. And the plural, nostra, nostrorum, nostris, oops, nostris, nostra, nostris. A, orum, isa, is. So the big takeaway from this worksheet is that the noun can be one declension. The adjective can be a different one. No problem. No big deal. Good advice for more than just noun and adjective declensions, right? We don't have to look the same. We can wear a different outfit. We can wear different clothing, but we're all Latin words or something like that. All right, any questions before we take off and I start refreshing web pages? That's a bigger question. I'm going to jump into the Discord after this. So if you want to keep chatting about this stuff, I'd be happy to keep it going with you guys. But I'm going to cut the video here. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you later.